All right. G3. That is not a move we see every day. Our response, of course, E5, right? It's like a reverse modern. Oh, okay. So probably this guy is going to play the hippo. Claim the center. Yeah, so he's playing the hippo. Multiple different setups against the hippo, very effective. If you remember, we faced this setup a while ago with reverse colors. Does anybody remember what slightly weird-looking move I made with white in that position? I'll give you a hint. This move is aimed against the bishop on G2. It's aimed at disarming that bishop. It has a drawback, but it's aimed at disarming that bishop, making it bite on granite. And that is the move pawn C6. Sort of a London-y type of move with the bishop coming into D6, defending the pawn. F4 should not be dangerous here. I mean, it's a move, but I think we'll be able to deal with it. Bishop G2. Yeah, and now we develop normally. Knight F6. And what about this knight? This knight's going to eventually make its way to D7. Knight F3. Mistake. Usually in the hippo, of course, the knight goes to E2. What is the reason for that? Yeah, I mean, E4 is a great move here. E4 is great. E4 clamps down on the light squares. Yeah, knight E5, very dubious play. Yeah, now, I mean, we're not, like, winning or anything, but black is solidly better. What should we do now? How should we deal with this knight? What's a nice, harmonious move that improves your position? Yeah, queen E7. Natural play. And the knight has no squares. White will have to go either F4 or D4, both of which are quite weakening. If he plays D4, there's an instructive moment coming up. So as a hint, I actually would go so far as to say we might not want to en passant either. But particularly, we don't want to en passant here. Why not? Well, let's think about that. En passant, knight takes D3. We've done the dark squared bishop a pretty serious favor. We've also done the F3 square a pretty serious favor. Our pawn on E4 is really clamping down on that square. So the idea of getting rid of this knight is good. That's the correct idea. But we don't have to do it by en passanting. We can do it in a much more clinical fashion. But not by taking on E5. We certainly don't want to give away this bishop. Of course, knight B to D7. The move C5 can be tempting, but remember, white is not obliged to take. And now bishop takes D7, gotten rid of the knight. We've kept our clamp on F3. We've kept our pawn chain. And now we can start attacking the king side. All right, Frank. Well, okay. Well, here you guys know what to do. In fact, the previous game, I think, offers a good example. No need to... we can castle long first, but there's no need to do that. We can castle long when we feel like it. Don't be afraid to start attacking with your king still in the center. Right? That's an important concept. Because, again, we can castle long whenever we feel like it. The king is under no imminent threat. Let's go. Let's go H5. Let's start attacking. And let's try to go for quick checkmate. This is a very thematic attack, using the hook on G3. And trying to induce some sort of weakening. Okay, so knight C3 is really bad. Because that even blocks the C-pawn. And that just, I mean, he's just walking right into this attack. But, you know, I honestly don't understand why there's this proliferation of these types of openings played by beginners. You know, one of the things I recommend most emphatically is just not to do that. Start off by playing legitimate openings, and you're going to find yourself developing fundamentals. Of course, opening the H file is a no-brainer. Yeah, and f takes g3 may seem annoying. It may seem that this opens the rook, but what are the consequences of that move? Well, let's think about it. First of all, look at that e3 pawn. It's tremendously weak. Look at the h2 pawn. Tremendously weak. Putting it together, knight g4. Simple chess. And this is crushing. Absolutely crushing. Given a choice, we'll probably go rook takes h2. We won't even bother to take e3. So let me go on a diatribe as he's thinking, because this position is totally lost. Yeah, it's popular nowadays, I think, to play these offbeat lines or these systems. But if you're a beginner and you're looking to accelerate your improvement, this is basically the point of this third speedrun, is to like convert people into classical openings first and giving yourself a basis. I think Aman's building fundamentals series, which I wholeheartedly recommend in many ways. You know, I've taken inspiration from it. And I think it fills some of the, you know, flaws and gaps of the speedrun. It's the same principle, right? But if you are to play something offbeat, then learn it properly. H3. Okay, so of course, knight takes E3. An instructive moment coming up after queen E2. Instructive moment coming up. Okay, so I know a lot of you want to take the rook on F1. That's not the most accurate move. The most accurate move is knight takes G2, of course, because this opens up the H file, and the point here is to combine winning material with the checkmating attack, to do both at the same time. Well, the Hippo is not a bad opening at the highest level. If you know how to play, you know the right setup, you know how to respond to these moves, it's not bad. But it's one of those, you know, things you shouldn't do unless you're a professional. Bishop takes H3. We could have also taken with the rook on H3, but then knight E2. Okay, so here we just need one more patient move. Do not take on F1 because a rook on H8 is undefended. And what is the last ingredient of the attack? Of course, now we castle with great effect because with threatening bishop takes F1, we're crushing. Now, queen G5 was also great. Queen G5 here is also very possible, but let's keep it flexible. Okay, rook E1. Many winning moves here. But let's be surgical here. Now, let's think about pathways of attack, right? How are we going to checkmate white? Well, one way is to use the light squares. We have a light squared bishop. White doesn't. So this should immediately lead you. Frankie with the 10 subs anyway. Damn, girl. Queen F2. Okay. Again, let's be precise. Bishop F3 wins the game, but not immediately due to what little annoying move, right? It's nothing major, but it prolongs the game. Queen takes F3, and then we're going to have to win an endgame up in exchange and a pawn. So what would you guys propose to circumvent that problem? Yeah, just go queen G5 and bring the queen into the attack while you're at it. And now bishop F3 is unstoppable, together with queen H5. Light squares. Again, the light squares are what really kill white here. Okay, knight E4 is desperation. I guess it prevents bishop F3. I guess it prevents bishop F3, but now, of course, okay. When you follow the fundamentals, it is simple. Okay, so I guess just take the rook. We can go queen F3, but whatever, doesn't matter. Just take the rook. Queen F3 is the threat. Queen F3, rook H1. We need to mate. Whoa! I don't want to pre-move that. Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to go here. And then check and mate. Yeah, resigns. Okay. Burlingame Chess Club and the mechanics. So C6, you guys already know the rule here. Bishop G2. Knight F6. Yeah, so knight F3 is the first mistake. Knight E2 is the proper setup. And if black goes H5 here, you guys already know what to do, which is H3. With the idea of meeting H4 with G4. But not, I mean, usually H4 is bad because it weakens the G4 square. And it creates the possibility of G5. Okay, knight F3 is like bad but not losing. And here definitely F4 is better. F4 at least keeps the bishop open. Here we would have en passanted. Probably. Although, and then maybe bishop G4. Although, even here knight BD7 looks fantastic. Like this structure with H5 coming. This reminds me of this game Larsen-Spassky, which is sort of this very famous game where Spassky just demolishes him in like 10 moves. And it was exactly this structure. This H5, H4 idea can be absolutely devastating in these positions. It can be absolutely just destructive, I guess the word I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen, many of you have seen this game. Larsen-Spassky, 1970, came from a different opening, but similar, right? b3, c4, knight f3, e4. You can see where this is going. And e3. And then f4. And then f4. So Spassky goes after him. Boom. And then Larsen goes g3, another weakening move, creating a hook. Boom. And after h3, the very famous move that Spassky played here. Does anybody know what move Spassky played here? I think this is like child's play. The fact that Larsen missed this is crazy. h4, hg. I mean, it's so easy to calculate this. Takes here, check, and here. The cool part of the game happens after rook g1. Here, Spassky played a very famous game. Famous move. The move queen h4 wins, but Spassky played the brilliant rook h1 deflection tactic. Now g2, paving the way for this to happen, and black not only makes a new queen, but it's actually checkmate, just more important. Larsen played g2 rook f1, check, g takes f1, queen resigns, because after bishop f1, bishop g4, it's mate. Bishop e2, queen h1 is mate, or king c1, queen e1. I mean, one of Larsen's worst games ever. And I really, this game often gets into like the best 100 best games of all time list. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. It's a nice combination, but, you know, I disqualify games where one of the players played like garbage. But it's still something you guys should look at for a model of how to play against the structure. So similar, yeah, very similar. Knight g4 is unnecessary here. You can go h5 straight away. The d4, knight bd7, takes take. This is already horrible for white. At least he should go c. At least put some pressure on this pawn. The castle right into the attack. And on h3, there is a very typical and very powerful combination. We go h4. Now this looks bad, right? It's like, why are we allowing g4? There are two approaches to this position. The first, the clinical, well, the typical is bishop c7. This is not a good move, though. The idea is to go queen d6. Who can tell me the drawback of the move bishop c7? Something you should remember. How does white prevent queen d6? Yeah, bishop a3 is super annoying, and the queen is no good square. So what's the combination here that I'm talking about? Okay, and yeah, knight takes g4. And you know, this kind of stuff even happens in the end. There's a very nice game that I just found. This is really cool. This stuff happens even in the end game. Yeah, so you guys got it. You guys got it. It's knight takes g4, hg, h3, bishop h1, h2, and now queen h. Whoops, sorry. Queen g5 is probably also winning. Queen h4 is a mate. This is a mate threat, and f3, queen g3 mate. Maybe marginally more resilient is f4, but now bishop takes g4, decisive attack. Decisive attack. You're like, I want evidence. Can you show me how the classics did it? This idea is even prevalent in the endgame sometimes. Something to remember. Here is a cool game from a long time ago. Okay, so Simagan against Yakubovich. Simagan was a grandmaster. He was one of the strongest players in the Soviet Union in like first half of the 20th century. Not a name that most of you guys probably have heard of. Born 1919, died 1968. Died pretty young. But he had an illustrious career, and he was like a mainstay in Soviet chess. And look at the position he has here. He's got that pawn on d6. Black is totally paralyzed. And even though the queens are off the board, guess what Simagan does in this position? Without even calculating. Yeah, at 17 years old, he finds this idea. In 1936. Very impressive. Well, not knight g5 immediately. We need to set it up. Yeah, h5, g5, knight takes g5. Now, why does this work? Well, after h7, king g7, you don't have a queen to put on h6, but you do have a piece that you can maneuver. Beautiful, beautiful move he plays in this position. Just a lovely looking move. Think about mating constructions. Knight e3, bingo. It's threatening knight f5 check and rook h6 mate. Black can try to prevent it with knight d4. But then, of course, you play c3, chasing the knight. Black tried rook e8. creating Luft. Now Samagan activates his rook. The point is that black is just totally paralyzed. Knight f5, rook h6, bishop g8, probably unnecessary, but winning. Rook g6, and that's it. The game is over. And white's going to play like bishop takes e6 and rook g8. Black blunders the rook, but it's over. Just total domination. Look at the bishop on h8. Just crushing. So just file this away into your mental directory of ideas. Just something to consider. It doesn't always work. There are situations where it doesn't work, where this knight g4 stuff doesn't work. But here it does. And knight c3 is decisive. I mean, h4, we don't have to analyze any further. White's just floundering on the queen side, and we're just destroying on the king side. So this was a simple game, conceptually speaking. Not much happened. I mean, after this, not much happens. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the speedrun. Thanks again for the tremendous support by everybody.